Welcome back everyone to Genshin Interact. Today we're going to be taking a look at the second half of the 1.0 Wuthering Waves banners. This character we'll be taking a look at today is Yinlin. Let's go through this banner and see whether or not this character is a good pulling option for you. And if you do enjoy the video, go ahead and like and subscribe and check out the rest of the channel for other videos you may be interested in. We do also have a Discord you can join where our members can talk with each other and even talk with us. Now, on to the video.
So taking a look right at Yinlin, really just taking a peek right at her basic attack and looking at her kit in general. Her basic attack is nothing really different from other characters. You're going to have your basic attack, your heavy attack, your mid-air attack, and your dodge counter. Nothing's going to be really crazy about these. But jumping right over into her resonance skill called Magnetic Roar. The puppet zap string that she uses to deal damage deals electro damage here to the target that she hits and puts Yinlin into the execution mode. While in execution mode, basic attacks and dodge counters will trigger one electromagnetic blast when hitting a target. Each stage of basic attack or dodge counter can only trigger one electromagnetic blast, and it goes up to 4 times. An electromagnetic blast attacks all targets marked with Resonance Circuit Sinner's Mark, dealing electro damage while doing so. Also through the skill, you have Lightning Execution. Now while in the execution mode, you can use your resonance skill again to cast Lightning Execution to attack the target, dealing electro damage. If the resonance skill Lightning Execution is not activated in a while or this character is switched, this skill will be put on cooldown.
Next up, looking at her Resonance Liberation. This is plain and simple. It just says that you're basically just going to command Zap String to call for thunder to fall upon a large range, dealing electro damage. So it's a nice, pretty big hit, and that's all it really does. But looking over at the Forte Circuit, the biggest part of the kit, this states that when Yinlin's Judgment Points is full, her heavy attack is replaced with Chameleon Cipher, which consumes all of her Judgment Points to attack the target, dealing electro damage. When it hits a target marked with Sinner's Mark, the Sinner's Mark is replaced with Punishment Mark, lasting for 18 seconds. Now looking at the Sinner's Mark, what is this? Well, when normal attack Zap Strings Dance that Vixen talked about earlier, or when the Resonance Liberation that I just mentioned, and the intro skill hit targets, they will apply Sinner's Mark on that target that was hit. Now do note that Sinner's Mark will be removed when Yinlin exits the field. So that is Sinner's Mark. What is the Punishment Mark? This states that when a target marked with Punishment Mark is damaged, Judgment Strike will fall, dealing electro damage to all targets marked with Punishment Mark. And this can be triggered up to once per second. Now the way you can get Yinlin's Judgment Points to actually use this Forte Circuit, there are several different ways to get these. You can do your normal attacks, that will restore Judgment. You also have the Resonance skill Magnetic Roar, which is the initial use of the Resonance skill. You can also get it by using the Electromagnetic Blast, which comes from the skill as well that Vixen talked about, and also when you use Lightning Execution.
Looking at the intro and outro skill, her intro skill doesn't necessarily have anything, extremely nice or good, but her outro skill has something that's kind of nice. The next character or other characters on a nearby team, if you're in a co-op world, gain 20% electro damage deepen and 25% resonance liberation damage deepen for 14 seconds or until they are switched off field. Looking right over into the weapon though, really quickly, just to kind of just look at the pieces that the weapon really looks at here. First of all, looking at the main stat that it has, at the highest level, it does have 36% crit rate, which is extremely nice because you can get about 10% crit rate from some of the stat bonuses in Yinlin's kit already. So you're basically already sitting at, with this weapon maxed out as well as with her, at like a 51% crit rate before you even touch any echoes that have crit rate in them as well. But looking specifically at the ability that this weapon gives, it increases the damage bonus of all resonance attributes by 12%. When a resonance skill hits a target, it increases attack by 12% and can stack up to 2 times. When the equipped character is not on the field, their attack increases by an additional 12%. Some other characters, if we're really looking at some other rectifiers that could use this weapon, in general right now, the game only has 4 rectifying characters if we kind of include Yinlin when she releases. And that's Baizhi or Baizhi, Encore, Yinlin, and Verena. Looking at some other characters that this could be for, we only have 4 rectifiers in the game right now, and it's Baizhi or Baizhi, however you say it, Encore, Yinlin, and Verena. Obviously, the best in slot for this weapon is going to be Yinlin. Encore comes at a close second, considering she can use all of the things with it, as well as all the damage is extremely nice for her. Verena comes in at third because the high amount of base attack and whatnot can actually still be used, considering Verena heals off of attack. And at the bottom, I would put this with Baizha. I wouldn't put this on your Baizha at all because its crit rate doesn't help your HP percent or your HP in general at all, which is where Baizha actually tries to focus in, considering that she is a healer and bases herself off of HP for her healing, unlike a character like Verena, which is why Verena's a little bit higher.
Now that we've learned about Yinlin and kind of looked at what she can do for you, this next part of the video is our summary, kind of answering a lot of these different questions that you may have on the character. Now, since Wuthering Waves is a very new game, you know, in this part of the video, it's going to be a lot more straightforward and simple because a lot of our accounts basically are copy and paste right now, right? So the first question we ask is, do you need this character on your account? Basically, how valuable is Yinlin? Now, my first impression of Yinlin is pretty good just because she has kind of a duality. You can use her as just a DPS. You can keep her on field and do a lot of these different things with her skill and basic attacks with all those marks. But then there is that part of her kit with the Forte where you can go off field and she's still dealing that off-field electro damage. So overall, I think looking into the future of Wuthering Waves, I think a character like this is going to have a lot more permanence. I think Yinlin will age pretty well moving ahead just because she can do off-field damage. It'll greatly help your on-fielders just dish out a lot more DPS in general.
Looking at the next question, it says, what roles is your account in need of? Or who else kind of in here really fits that other role? So if we look at this, basically, like Rift was just talking about, kind of off-fielders doing damage, the only other character I believe right now that can do quote-unquote off-field damage, at least for multiple of them, that is going to be of the same element, is going to be Yuan Wu. Now, Yuan Wu can throw down a field and then do some like electro hits based off of his defense, but here I think Yinlin, obviously being a 5-star and not being one of the free characters that you can get through the Tower of Adversity, you know, obviously being a 5-star character with the weapon and everything, never mind buffing other characters with her outro skill and the amount of damage that she can just pile on in her kit, I think she's going to be way past him in terms of that. And I think honestly, she's probably going to be your only useful, like constant off-field character right now before the game kind of throws some other off-fielders into the game. Who else fills this role? I could say at least a little bit here that someone who fills the role similarly is someone like Encore. She's a standard character, and if you accidentally got her by losing a 50-50, or if you chose her with using your ticket, or you got her on one of the choice banners, either way, Encore is a great character to use as well, and she could similarly do a lot of damage as well. But I think once again, with Yinlin being a lot more capable in multiple different areas, and like Rift was just talking about, she'll be way more useful later on down the line as well.
The next question we ask is, what kinds of teams are you trying to go for or build? And I think, Vixen, you brought up a great point with comparing Yuan Wu and that he's an electro and kind of deals some off-field damage. I think that is a good point. Something that came to my mind is, and to make a comparison, it's kind of how I see Fischl and Yaimiko in Genshin Impact. I see Yinlin as essentially a Yaimiko because it's a lot of front-loaded electro damage, and then you exit off-field, you go to your next character, right? And then she's still dealing electro damage from off field. And that's, you know, that's just much like Yaimiko, how she works. A lot of that front loaded damage and then still doing damage with the turrets, right? And so similarly, in order to more comprehend as a viewer watching this, kind of if you need the character or not, it's like, for me in Genshin Impact, it's like, I don't need Yaimiko, right? Because you have other things that fill the slot. Like in this case, it's going to be Yuan Wu. There's even characters like Mortefi. Yeah, that's a different element, but it's off-field damage that's still going. And then Mortefi's also increasing your heavy attack damage. And so in a similar way, Yinlin here, she's increasing your resonance liberation damage and your electro damage. So that's something that I think is going to be very nice. And like I was pointing out in the first question, something that's just going to age very well because you can use that like for Calcharo now. But what if we get another electro DPS down the road? That's just crazy. And I think Yinlin's going to be a great support for that.
Looking at the next question we have, the question we have is, do you need the weapon? Now, looking at the weapon Stringmaster here, even though it has a nice, crit rate main stat, and it's got some really good abilities like I talked about earlier that Encore could use, and Verena could use the high base attack and or the extra attack in general to just have so that, you can get more healing because Verena does her healing based off of attack. You're not really going to want to use to go after this weapon just for those characters. They can use a lot of the 4-star weapons that are already in the game and that drop consistently as well. So I would say to try your luck with those weapons as well. Even an energy regen weapon can be good for Encore as well. So some of those things personally I think are going to be better. So I don't think, even though this weapon is extremely good, I don't think it's a necessary pull, even for Yinlin as well, since some other 4 stars could be used for her as well.
Now that we've answered some of those pivotal questions for your account, the next section of the video is kind of just weighing the danger, specifically looking in the resonance chains, or for those of you who don't know, basically the constellation or eidolon equivalent, the multiple copies of the character. So the first question right here is kind of just answering, is this character worth to have just at R0? Which is kind of, may seem redundant just because like, okay, is it worth to have the character, right? That is the question of the video, is the character worth pulling? And at the end of the day, my opinion on this is, yes, I think Yinlin is worth pulling just because I think she's going to age well. She's going to have value that kind of lasts for a very long time. She's giving, like we've talked about, a lot of buffs. She's giving electro damage bonus. You're getting resonance liberation damage bonuses. She has a lot of good damage in her own personal kit. I think she's a very fun and versatile character. I'm very excited for her release to see how that kind of plays out and what team she'll be good for. And even just kind of to see what characters down the road might pair really well with her. But looking at her first and second resonant chains, just to quickly go over these are very simple and straightforward. Her first resonance chain just increases her skill, magnetic roar and lightning execution damage by 70%. So it's a very nice, just straight up damage increase. Her resonance chain number 2 states that resonant skill electromagnetic blast recovers an additional 5 judgment points and 5 resonance energy on hit. Just hitting this right off the bat, like when I look at these two, I definitely think the second resonant chain has a lot more value just because you're getting that additional energy. You're getting your forte bar filled up a lot quicker. That's definitely going to be way better just because you want to make sure you have that kind of things ready on cooldown for when you come back to her in rotation. That's always usually going to be more valuable than just straight damage increases, because what's the damage increase when you can't even use it, right? Which, yes, the damage increase in the first resonant chain is tied to the skill, which you're going to get that every rotation anyways, because that's more personal. But honestly, I think most of the time you're just going to want to be able to use the forte to get those more powerful marks and deal that off-field damage once you do switch out. So that's why I think the resonant chain number 2 is better. But also, I don't think you have to go for these at all. At R0, I think Yinlin's just going to be really good at her job as an off-fielder and even on-fielder if you decide to go that route.
We hope that this video could help you decide on whether this character and weapon coming up the next banner are for you. As always, if you have any suggestions or questions for us that may help other players or us as well, go ahead and let us know in the comments. Make sure to like, subscribe, and check out our Discord as well. Thank you again for watching the video, and we'll see you in the next one.